Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to close your eyes for just a moment. I want you to think about that dream you had when you were younger. That thing you whispered to yourself late at night when no one was watching. That version of yourself you promised you would become. Now open your eyes and ask yourself honestly, how far are you from that person? How many times have you told yourself you're not good enough? How many times have you let fear win? How many times have you chosen comfort over growth? Because here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. The distance between who you are and who you want to be isn't measured in luck or talent or connections. It's measured in mindset. And today, I'm going to share with you the one mindset that changed everything for me. The mindset that took me from a small town girl with impossible dreams to standing on stages around the world. And I promise you, if you truly embrace what I'm about to share, you will never be the same person again. I grew up in Bareilly, a small city in India that most people have never heard of. My father was a physician in the Indian Army, and we moved every 2 years. Every single time I made friends, every single time I started to feel like I belonged somewhere, we had to pack up and leave. Do you know what that does to a child? Do you know what it feels like to always be the new kid? To always be starting over? To never have that sense of roots that other children had? I used to watch other kids with their lifelong friends, their childhood homes, their sense of belonging, and I felt like I was always on the outside looking in. But here's what I didn't realize then, here's what took me years to understand. That constant change, that constant discomfort, that feeling of never quite fitting in, it was building something in me. It was building resilience. It was building adaptability. It was teaching me that home isn't a place. It's a feeling you carry inside yourself. When I was 13 years old, my parents sent me to America for high school. 13. Can you imagine? I barely spoke English well enough to have a conversation. I had never been away from my family for more than a few days. And suddenly I was in Newton, Massachusetts, living with relatives, going to an American high school where I didn't understand half of what people were saying. I remember sitting in that cafeteria on my first day, holding my tray, looking around at all these kids who seemed so confident, so American, so sure of themselves. And I felt completely invisible, worse than invisible. I felt like I didn't belong anywhere. Not in India anymore, because I was becoming something different. Not in America, because I would always be the foreign kid with the accent and the strange lunch. But you know what happened during those years? I discovered something powerful. I discovered that when you're uncomfortable, when you're out of place, when you have no choice but to adapt, you develop a superpower. You develop the ability to observe. You develop the ability to learn quickly. You develop the ability to become whoever you need to be in that moment. I wasn't just learning English. I was learning how to read people, how to understand different cultures, how to navigate spaces where I didn't naturally fit. And let me tell you something, that skill, that ability to be comfortable being uncomfortable, that's the foundation of everything I've achieved. After 3 years in America, I went back to India for my senior year of high school. And just when I was settling back into Indian life, just when I was reconnecting with my roots, my father entered me into a beauty pageant. I didn't even want to do it. I was 17 years old. I wanted to study aeronautical engineering. I had my life planned out. I was going to be an engineer, have a normal career, make my parents proud in a conventional way. But my father saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. He saw potential. He saw possibility. He saw that I had this unique combination of East and West, this ability to bridge cultures. And he thought, why not try? So I entered the Femina Miss India pageant. And against all odds, against girls who had been training for this their whole lives, girls who came from the big cities, girls who seemed so much more polished and prepared than me, I won. 17 years old, and suddenly I was Miss India, then Miss World, and my entire life changed in an instant. Everything I had planned, every safe path I had imagined for myself, it all disappeared. And I had to make a choice. Do I go back to the life I had planned, the engineering degree, the safe conventional path, or do I step into this terrifying unknown world of Bollywood, of acting, of entertainment, where I had zero experience, zero training, zero connections? I chose the unknown. I chose fear. I chose growth. And that decision, that one decision to embrace uncertainty instead of running from it, it changed everything. But here's what nobody tells you about choosing the harder path. Here's what they don't show you in the highlight reels and the success stories. It's brutal. It's lonely. It's filled with more rejection and failure and doubt than you can possibly imagine. When I first came to Mumbai to start my acting career, I knew nobody. I had no family in the film industry. I had no godfather, no connections, no one to make calls on my behalf. In Bollywood, they have this term, Nepo babies. Kids who come from film families, who have every door opened for them before they even prove themselves. I was the opposite of that. I was an outsider in every possible way. I was from a small town. I had no acting training. I didn't even know how the film industry worked. I was Miss World, sure. But do you know how many beauty pageant winners have failed in Bollywood? Do you know how many people told me that my win was just luck, that I would never make it as an actress, that I should go back to whatever I was doing before? My first few films were disasters, not just unsuccessful, disasters. Critics tore me apart. They said I couldn't act. They said I was stiff, wooden, expressionless. They said I was just another pretty face who would be forgotten in a year. And you know what? They weren't completely wrong. I wasn't good at first. I had no training. I was learning on the job, making mistakes in front of millions of people, failing publicly over and over again. Do you know how humiliating that is? Do you know what it feels like to work your heart out on something and then read review after review saying you're terrible? There were nights when I cried myself to sleep. Nights when I questioned everything. Nights when I thought, maybe they're right. Maybe I should just quit. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. I would call my mother and tell her I wanted to come home, that I couldn't do this anymore, that the rejection was too painful. And she would say something that I will never forget. She would say, Priyanka, the only difference between people who make it and people who don't is that people who make it don't quit. That's it. It's not more talent. It's not more luck. It's just that they refuse to stop. They refuse to let failure be final. So I made a decision. I decided that I was going to become excellent. Not good. Not decent. Excellent. I decided that if I was going to fail, it wouldn't be because I didn't give everything I had. I started training. Acting classes, diction classes, dancing, action training, everything. I worked 16, 18, 20 hours a day. While other actors were going to parties and networking events, I was on set or in class. While other people were sleeping, I was studying my craft, watching films, analyzing performances, learning everything I could about what makes a great actor great. And slowly, things started to change. Not overnight, not dramatically, but film by film, performance by performance, I got better. I started choosing more challenging roles. I stopped playing it safe. I took on characters that scared me, characters that required me to dig deep into parts of myself I had never explored. And something magical started to happen. The same critics who had written me off started to notice. The same industry that had dismissed me as just a beauty queen started to see me as a serious actor. But even as I was finding success in Bollywood, even as I was finally proving myself, there was this voice in my head. This voice that said, is this it? Is this all you're capable of? You've conquered one mountain, but what about the bigger mountains? What about Hollywood? And that voice wouldn't leave me alone. Because here's the thing about growth. Here's what I've learned. Once you develop the mindset of always pushing yourself, always reaching for more, you can never go back to playing small. You can never be satisfied with just being comfortable. So in the middle of a successful Bollywood career, when I finally had everything I had worked so hard for, when I was finally accepted and celebrated and successful, I made another crazy decision. I decided to move to America and try to break into Hollywood. Do you understand how insane that was? Hollywood doesn't exactly roll out the red carpet for Indian actresses. There are barely any South Asian faces in mainstream American entertainment. The roles that existed were stereotypes, cab drivers and convenience store owners, and IT professionals with thick accents. And I had a thick accent. I looked different. I came from a different entertainment industry. I had zero connections in Hollywood. Zero. People in India thought I was crazy. They said, "Why would you leave all this success to go be a nobody in America? Why would you start from zero again when you finally made it here?" And I understood their logic. It made sense. It was the safe, rational thing to stay. But I couldn't. Because I had discovered something about myself through all those years of struggle and growth. I discovered that I'm not built for safe. I'm not built for comfortable. I'm built for growth. I'm built for challenge. I'm built for proving that impossible things are possible. My first few years in Hollywood were even harder than my first years in Bollywood. At least in Bollywood, I eventually had Miss World as a calling card. Some level of recognition. In Hollywood, I was nobody. I would go to auditions where they couldn't even pronounce my name right. I would read for parts where they wanted me to do a thick Indian accent, even though that's not how I speak. I would sit in waiting rooms with 100 other girls who all looked like they belonged there more than I did. And the rejection was constant. No, 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 no. Not right for the part. Not what we're looking for. Not American enough. Too ethnic, not ethnic enough. Too Bollywood. Not Bollywood enough. It was like nothing I did was ever quite right. And this is where the mindset I want to share with you really came into play. This is where everything I had learned, every failure I had overcome, every time I had been counted out and proved people wrong, it all came together into a philosophy, a way of seeing the world that changed everything. I stopped seeing rejection as failure. I stopped seeing closed doors as dead ends. I started seeing every no as information, every closed door as redirection, every setback as setup for something better. I started understanding that growth isn't about getting to a destination where everything is perfect and easy. Growth is about becoming the kind of person who can handle bigger and bigger challenges. Think about it like this. When you go to the gym and lift weights, what happens? Your muscles get torn down, they get damaged, they hurt. And your body's natural instinct is to say, "Stop, this hurts, this is uncomfortable. Let's go back to the couch where it's safe and comfortable." But if you push through that discomfort, if you keep lifting, if you keep showing up even when it's hard, what happens? Your muscles rebuild themselves stronger than before. They adapt, they grow. And eventually, the weight that used to feel impossible to lift becomes easy. You need heavier weights. You need bigger challenges. Because your capacity has expanded. That's exactly how life works. That's exactly how your career works. That's exactly how your personal growth works. Every challenge you face, every obstacle you overcome, every time you choose discomfort over comfort, you're not just solving that one problem. You're expanding your capacity. You're becoming someone who can handle more. You're building muscles you didn't even know you had. And the version of you that exists on the other side of that challenge is fundamentally different from the version that existed before it. You're not the same person. You've grown. But here's the key. Here's what most people miss. Growth isn't comfortable. Growth isn't easy. Growth isn't something that happens to you while you're sitting on your couch waiting for your life to change. Growth is active. Growth is intentional. Growth requires you to do the things that scare you. Growth requires you to fail and get back up and fail again and keep going. Growth requires you to look at your weaknesses, your insecurities, your limitations, and instead of hiding from them or making excuses for them, you face them head on and you do the work to overcome them. I remember when I first got my American TV show, Quantico. I was the first South Asian woman to headline an American network drama. Do you understand the weight of that? The responsibility of that? I wasn't just representing myself anymore. I was representing my entire community. Every Indian girl who had ever dreamed of seeing someone who looked like her on American television. Every immigrant who had been told they didn't belong. Every person of color who had been made to feel less than. And the pressure was crushing. Because I knew that if I failed, if the show failed, it wouldn't just be me failing. It would be used as proof that someone like me couldn't carry an American show. That audiences wouldn't accept a brown woman as the lead. And you know what happened? The show was a massive hit. It ran for 3 seasons. It opened doors not just for me, but for so many other South Asian actors. But even that success came with challenges. I was shooting Quantico in Montreal, flying back to India every few weeks to shoot Bollywood films, doing press and promotions on 3 continents. I was sleeping 3-4 hours a night. I was exhausted. My body was breaking down. I had injuries, health issues, moments where I literally thought I couldn't go on. And people would say, "Why are you doing this to yourself? Why don't you just slow down? Pick one thing and focus on that." But that's not who I am. That's not how I'm built. Because I had learned something crucial through all my years of struggle and growth. I learned that your capacity is not fixed. You are not born with a certain amount of energy or ability or potential, and that's all you get. Your capacity grows based on what you demand of it. The more you push yourself, the more you can push yourself. The more you accomplish, the more you realize you're capable of accomplishing. And if you stay in your comfort zone, if you only do what feels easy and safe, your capacity actually shrinks. You become less capable, not more. There's this concept in psychology called learned helplessness. Scientists did these experiments with dogs where they put them in situations where they couldn't escape from mild electric shocks. Eventually, even when they opened the door and gave the dogs a way to escape, the dogs wouldn't even try. They had learned to be helpless. They had learned that their actions didn't matter. So why bother? And I see this in people all the time. I see people who have been rejected so many times that they stop trying. People who have failed so many times that they stop believing they can succeed. People who have been told no so many times that they stop asking. They've learned helplessness. They've accepted limitation as their reality. But here's the beautiful thing about mindset. Here's the powerful thing about how you choose to see the world. You can unlearn helplessness. You can reject limitation. You can decide that no matter how many times you've been knocked down, you're going to get back up. You can decide that your past does not define your future. You can decide that other people's opinions of you are not facts. You can decide that impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion. And you can prove that opinion wrong. When I started my production company, when I started producing my own content, instead of just acting in other people's projects, people thought I was being too ambitious. They said, "You're already successful, why risk it? Why try to do more? Why not just be grateful for what you have?" And I understood where they were coming from. There's this cultural thing, especially for women of color, where you're supposed to be grateful. You're supposed to be humble. You're supposed to not want too much or ask for too much or demand too much. You're supposed to be happy with whatever scraps you're given and not push for more. But I rejected that completely. Because being grateful and being ambitious are not mutually exclusive. I am deeply grateful for every opportunity I've been given. I am grateful for every person who has believed in me, every door that has opened, every success I've achieved. But gratitude doesn't mean settling. Gratitude doesn't mean stopping. Gratitude doesn't mean not wanting more for yourself and for your community. In fact, I think true gratitude means taking the opportunities you've been given and maximizing them. It means honoring the people who believed in you by proving them right. It means using your platform and your success to create opportunities for others. So I started producing. I started creating content that I wanted to see in the world. Content that had South Asian leads, that told stories from our perspective, that didn't make us the sidekick or the stereotype, but the hero of our own stories. And it was hard. Producing is hard. You're responsible for everything. If something goes wrong, it's on you. If the project fails, it's on you. If you run out of money, if your actors quit, if your director isn't working out, It's all on you. But you know what? I had trained for hard. My entire life had been training for hard. Every time I had been the outsider. Every time I had been counted out. Every time I had to prove myself in a new environment, it was all preparation for this. And here's what I want you to understand. Here's what I need you to really hear. Your struggles are not punishments. Your challenges are not signs that you're on the wrong path. Your difficulties are not evidence that you should quit. Your struggles are training. Your challenges are preparation. Your difficulties are building the exact skills and strength and resilience you're going to need for the next level. Nothing is wasted. Every single hard thing you've been through, every single time you've been knocked down, every single failure and rejection and disappointment, it's all data. It's all education. It's all making you stronger. I think about my career and I can draw a direct line from every failure to every success. The films that flopped taught me about choosing better scripts. The criticisms that hurt taught me where I needed to improve. The rejections taught me resilience. The times I was the only woman in the room taught me how to use my voice. The times I was the only person of color in the room taught me how to create space for others. Nothing was wasted. Every single experience, good and bad, was building the person I needed to become. But this mindset, this growth mindset, it's not passive. You don't just wait for life to teach you lessons. You actively seek out challenges. You actively put yourself in uncomfortable situations. You actively choose the harder path when the easier path is right there. Because you understand that easy doesn't grow you. Comfortable doesn't grow you. Safe doesn't grow you. Only challenge grows you. Only discomfort grows you. Only fear faced and overcome grows you. When I wrote my memoir, I had to face parts of my past that I had never fully processed. I had to write about being bullied in school for being different. I had to write about the racism I experienced. I had to write about the times I was made to feel less than because of my skin color or my accent or where I came from. I had to write about the pressures of the entertainment industry, the impossible beauty standards, the constant judgment. I had to be vulnerable in a way I had never been before. And it was terrifying. Because for years I had built this image of being strong, of being confident, of having it all together. And now I was about to show people all the cracks, all the insecurities, all the moments when I wasn't strong at all. But I did it anyway. Because I realized that my story wasn't just my story. My struggles weren't just my struggles. There are millions of young women around the world who feel like they don't fit in. Who are told they're too much or not enough. Who are told that their dreams are too big or too unrealistic. Who face discrimination and doubt and criticism. And if my story could help even one of them, if my vulnerability could make even one person feel less alone, if my journey could inspire even one person to keep going when they want to quit, then it was worth it. Then the discomfort was worth it. And this is the beautiful thing about the growth mindset. It's not selfish. It's not just about you becoming successful or rich or famous. It's about you becoming the fullest, most authentic, most capable version of yourself so that you can impact the world around you. So that you can lift others as you climb. So that you can create opportunities for people who are coming up behind you. So that you can be the representation you wish you had when you were younger. Every time I take on a challenging role, I'm not just thinking about my performance. I'm thinking about what stories we're telling, what messages we're sending, who's getting to see themselves represented on screen. Every time I produce a project, I'm thinking about who's in the writer's room, who's directing, who's getting opportunities that they might not have gotten otherwise. Every time I use my platform to speak about something, I'm thinking about whose voices aren't being heard, what perspectives are missing from the conversation. Because success without significance is empty. Achievement without impact is hollow. You can have all the money and fame and success in the world, but if you're not using it to make the world even a tiny bit better, what's the point? This is what I mean by a mindset that will grow you forever. It's not about reaching some destination where you finally feel like you've made it. and then you can relax. It's about understanding that growth is the destination. Impact is the destination. Becoming more capable so you can contribute more is the destination. There is no finish line. There is no point where you get to say, okay, I'm done. I've grown enough. I've achieved enough. I've given enough. Because as long as you're alive, as long as you're breathing, there is more growth available to you. There are more levels you can reach. There are more people you can help. There is more impact you can make. But I want to be really honest with you about something. This mindset, this constant pushing, this always reaching for more, it comes with a cost. It's not easy. It's not always fun. There are moments of loneliness. There are moments of exhaustion. There are moments when you wonder if it's worth it. There are moments when you look at other people who have chosen the easier path and you wonder if they're actually happier than you. There are moments when you question everything. I've had those moments, many of them. There have been times when I've been so tired that I couldn't think straight. Times when I've pushed my body so hard that it's broken down. Times when I've sacrificed personal relationships for professional opportunities. Times when I've missed family events because I was on the other side of the world shooting something. Times when I've felt completely alone even though I'm surrounded by people. Times when the pressure has felt so heavy that I didn't know if I could carry it anymore. And in those moments, I have to remind myself why I'm doing this. I have to reconnect with the purpose behind the push. Because if you're just grinding for the sake of grinding, if you're just chasing success for the sake of success, if you're just trying to prove something to people who doubted you, you will burn out. You will break. The journey will eat you alive. You need a deeper why. You need a purpose that's bigger than your ego. You need a reason that can sustain you through the hardest moments. For me, that why is representation. It's proving that a girl from Bareilly can stand on the same stage as anyone from anywhere. It's showing young brown girls that they don't have to shrink themselves or change themselves or apologize for themselves to be successful. It's opening doors that were closed for me so that they're open for the next generation. It's telling stories that need to be told. It's using whatever platform I've built to amplify voices that are quieter than mine. That why is what gets me out of bed when I'm exhausted. That why is what pushes me forward when I want to quit. That why is what makes all the sacrifice worth it. What's your why? Have you really thought about it? Because if your why is just to be comfortable, just to have a nice life, just to not struggle, you're never going to develop this growth mindset. You're never going to push yourself to your full potential. You're never going to discover what you're truly capable of. Not because there's anything wrong with wanting comfort, but because comfort and growth are opposites. You cannot grow and stay comfortable at the same time. You cannot expand and stay in your comfort zone at the same time. You cannot become the best version of yourself while choosing the path of least resistance. You need a why that's bigger than your comfort. A why that's worth being uncomfortable for. A why that's worth failing for. A why that's worth looking stupid for. A why that's worth being criticized for. A why that's worth sacrificing for. And when you have that why, when it's crystal clear in your mind and your heart, nothing can stop you. Not rejection, not failure, not criticism, not doubt, not fear. Nothing. Because your why is bigger than all of it. I think about the young woman I was when I first came to Mumbai with dreams of becoming an actress. I was so naive, so unprepared, so clueless about how hard it was going to be. And part of me is grateful for that naivety. Because if I had known how many times I was going to fail, how many times I was going to be rejected, how many years it was going to take, how much pain and doubt and struggle I was going to go through, I might not have started. I might have chosen the safer path, but I didn't know. And by the time I realized how hard it was, I was already too committed to quit. I had already invested too much. I had already come too far. And that's the secret that nobody tells you. Starting is the hardest part. Taking that first step into the unknown, that's the hardest part. Because in the beginning, you have no evidence that you can do it. You have no proof that it will work out. You have no track record of success to fall back on. You just have this dream and this desire and this voice inside you that says, what if? What if I could? What if I tried? What if I'm capable of more than I think? And you have to bet on that voice. You have to trust that voice even though every logical part of your brain is screaming at you to play it safe. But here's what happens once you start. Once you take that first step, once you fail for the first time and get back up, once you face your fear and survive it, you start building evidence, you start building proof. You start developing confidence, not because someone told you that you're capable, but because you've proven it to yourself. And that confidence, that evidence-based confidence that comes from doing hard things and surviving them, that's unshakable. Nobody can take that away from you. Nobody can convince you that you can't do something when you have a track record of doing things people said you couldn't do. Every single time someone told me I couldn't do something and I did it anyway, I was making a deposit in my confidence bank. Every single time I was scared and I did it anyway, I was proving to myself that I was braver than I thought. Every single time I failed and got back up, I was teaching myself that failure isn't fatal. And now, after years and years of making those deposits, of collecting that evidence, I have this deep, unshakable belief in my ability to figure things out. Not because I think I'm perfect or special or more talented than everyone else, but because I have proof that I can face hard things and find a way through. That's what the growth mindset gives you. It gives you evidence-based confidence. It gives you real self-esteem that comes from doing estimable things. It gives you faith in yourself that's not based on arrogance or delusion, but on actual experience. And once you have that, once you truly trust yourself, the world opens up in ways you can't even imagine. Because you stop limiting yourself based on what you think you can do, and you start asking, what do I want to do? What impact do I want to make? What contribution do I want to give? And then you figure out how to do it. I never thought I would write a memoir. I never thought I would start a production company. I never thought I would become a UNICEF ambassador. I never thought I would invest in technology companies. I never thought I would open a restaurant. I never thought I would do half the things I've done. Not because I didn't dream about them, but because they seemed so far outside my capabilities. But then I realized that everything I'm doing now once seemed impossible. Being in Bollywood seemed impossible when I was a small town girl who had never acted. Being in Hollywood seemed impossible when I was a Bollywood actress with no American connections. Producing seemed impossible when I was just an actor. Everything seemed impossible until I did it. And then it became my new normal. And then I looked for the next impossible thing. That's what I want for you. I want you to understand that your current capabilities are not your limit. Your current circumstances are not your destiny. Your current challenges are not evidence that you're on the wrong path. They're evidence that you're on a path that's growing you. They're evidence that you're pushing yourself. They're evidence that you're not playing small. And if you keep going, if you keep pushing, if you keep growing, if you develop this mindset that sees every obstacle as opportunity and every setback as setup, there is literally no limit to what you can achieve. But you have to make a decision. You have to decide right now. In this moment, are you going to keep playing small? Are you going to keep letting fear make your decisions? Are you going to keep choosing comfort over growth? Are you going to keep making excuses for why you can't instead of finding reasons why you can? Or are you going to step into your potential? Are you going to bet on yourself? Are you going to do the scary thing? Are you going to choose growth even when it's uncomfortable? Are you going to become the person you're capable of becoming? Because I promise you, I absolutely promise you, you are capable of so much more than you think. You have strengths you haven't discovered yet. You have abilities you haven't developed yet. You have impact you haven't made yet. You have a version of yourself that you haven't met yet. And that version of you, that highest, fullest, most authentic, most capable version of you. It's not somewhere in the distant future. It's available right now. It's waiting for you to step into it. It's waiting for you to claim it. It's waiting for you to grow into it. But it requires action. It requires courage. It requires you to stop waiting for permission or the perfect moment or absolute certainty. It requires you to start before you're ready. It requires you to be willing to look stupid. It requires you to be willing to fail. It requires you to be willing to be uncomfortable. It requires you to be willing to stand out instead of fit in. It requires you to be willing to disappoint some people. It requires you to be willing to be criticized. It requires you to be willing to sacrifice. It requires you to be willing to do what most people won't do, so you can achieve what most people won't achieve. And I'm not going to lie to you and tell you it's going to be easy. I'm not going to give you some toxic positivity message that says, just believe in yourself and everything will magically work out. That's not how life works. Belief is necessary but not sufficient. You need belief plus action. You need faith plus work. You need dreams plus discipline. You need vision plus execution. You need to believe you can do it. And then you need to put in the thousands of hours of work required to actually do it. People see where I am now and they think it happened overnight. They think I got lucky. They think success just fell into my lap because I won a beauty pageant. They have no idea about the 15-hour days. They have no idea about the hundreds of auditions where I was told no. They have no idea about the films that flopped. They have no idea about the times I was bullied off sets. They have no idea about the sacrifices, the loneliness, the doubt, the fear. They just see the result and they think, oh, she's talented, she's lucky, she has it easy. And that's fine. I don't need people to know how hard it was. I don't need validation for my struggle. But I need you to know, I need you to understand that there is no elevator to success. You have to take the stairs. And the stairs are hard, they're steep, they're exhausting. But every single step is making you stronger. When I look back at my journey, I don't wish it had been easier. I don't wish I had been given more advantages or that things had been handed to me. Because the struggle is what made me who I am. The challenges are what built my character. The failures are what taught me resilience. The rejection is what taught me to believe in myself even when nobody else did. If it had been easy, I would be a completely different person. I would be weaker. I would be less capable. I would have less to offer. The difficulty was the point. The struggle was the education. And your struggle is not a mistake. Your challenges are not evidence that something is wrong. Your difficulties are not signs that you should quit. They're signs that you're growing. They're signs that you're on the right path. They're signs that you're becoming someone new, someone stronger, someone more capable. Easy doesn't change you. Comfortable doesn't transform you. Only challenge does that. Only difficulty does that. Only growth does that. So when you're in the middle of your struggle, when you're tired and frustrated and you want to quit, remember this moment. Remember what I'm telling you right now. You're exactly where you need to be. You're learning exactly what you need to learn. You're developing exactly the skills you're going to need. Nothing is wasted. It's all preparation. It's all training. It's all growing you into who you need to become. And please, please, please don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. Don't compare your beginning to someone else's middle. Don't compare your struggle to someone else's success. Everyone is on their own journey. Everyone has their own timeline. Everyone has their own challenges and advantages and circumstances. Your only competition is the person you were yesterday. Your only goal is to be a little bit better, a little bit braver, a little bit stronger than you were the day before. That's it. That's the game. Daily improvement. Constant growth. Never settling. Never stopping. Always reaching for more, not because you're not enough, but because growth is what makes life worth living. Think about the people who inspire you. Think about the people you admire. Are they people who played it safe and stayed comfortable? Or are they people who took risks and pushed boundaries and did things that scared them? Are they people who settled for good enough? Or are they people who reached for excellence even when it was hard? Are they people who let fear stop them? Or are they people who felt the fear and did it anyway? I bet you they're the second type. I bet you the people you admire most are the people who chose growth over comfort, who chose courage over fear, who